Speak blessings upon yourself. You ever wake up and feel like you're already behind before your feet even hit the floor? Like the world placed a weight on your back while you were still dreaming? I know that feeling. That silent struggle. And too many of us live there in that tension, in that invisible pressure to perform, prove, survive. But let me tell you something, and hear me with your whole spirit. If nobody's speaking life into you, you gotta do it for yourself. That's not selfish, that's survival. See, most people are waiting for some external confirmation before they feel worthy, before they feel whole. But life doesn't work like that. The power to change your life was never in somebody else's hands. It's always been in yours, right there, inside your words, inside your thoughts. When I was younger, I thought success came from outworking everybody in the room. And yeah, hard work matters. But what I've learned and what life taught me is that the words you whisper to yourself in silence are more powerful than the noise of the crowd. If you're feeding your mind out, you act in hesitation. But if you're feeding your soul blessings, encouragement, faith, you're building a foundation that storms can't crack. And I'm not just talking about hyping yourself up in the mirror. I'm talking about aligning your mindset, your beliefs, your actions with the vision of the person you're becoming. You speak with inspiration because you believe in your future potential. You walk in optimism because your spirit already knows what's possible. You speak blessings because you're planting seeds for your destiny. Now, I know some folks might say, man, that sounds like fantasy. That ain't real life. But I'm telling you, the real fantasy is thinking you can live a meaningful life while speaking negativity over your journey. That's the trap, and we fall for it every day. See, when you speak blessings on yourself, you're not being arrogant. You're being aware that the world might not hand you a microphone, but that doesn't mean you stop singing your truth. It's easy to get caught in the chaos. Bill, deadlines, doubts, people doubting you. But I've seen how personal growth starts when you stop waiting for someone else to affirm you and start being your own greatest and courage. That's not ego. That's resilience. That's biblical wisdom in action. Let the weak say, I am strong. Not because they feel strong, but because speaking it is the first step to becoming it. So, if you woke up this morning feeling like the odds are against you good, that means you're awake. Now use that awareness. Turn it into fuel. Speak hope into your day. Speak courage into your spirit. Speak blessings on your name. And when you do, you activate a whole new energy. A power that was asleep starts to wake up inside you. And let me share something deep before we move on, a little piece of wisdom that most people overlook. There's something hidden in the way we talk to ourselves. Something that can either be the poison or the cure. And by the end of this, I'm going to show you how to unlock that, how to make it work for you. Most people never get to that level of self-mastery, but you will. You ever notice how loud your mind gets when things go wrong? One setback and suddenly you're replaying every mistake you've ever made. It's like your inner critic got a megaphone and started narrating your worst fears. And you know what's wild? Most of the time, that voice isn't even yours. It's a remix of every insult, every rejection, every moment of doubt someone else dropped on you, but you made it yours. You kept replaying it until it felt familiar. But familiar doesn't mean true. See, the world will try to define you by your wounds, but you gotta define yourself by your healing. That's why you need to speak blessings upon yourself, not just casually, but intentionally. Because when you don't speak life, you leave a vacuum. And you better believe that vacuum will get filled by fear, by comparison, by guilt, by everything but truth. Now let's be real, this isn't easy at first. I didn't grow up knowing how to affirm myself. I didn't wake up one day and say, today I speak power and optimism over my journey. Nah, I learned it the hard way. I had to fall. I had to doubt myself. I had to watch doors close that I knew were meant for me. And in that silence, I started learning the first voice that needed to believe in me was mine. That's when everything began to change. Every goal-setting book, every motivational speaker, every successful person I met, they all pointed to the same thing. It starts inside, with the story you tell yourself. And let me tell you something, the mind doesn't argue with your self-talk, it believes it. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not enough, I'm too late, I can't get through this, then your mind starts building walls instead of doors. You're literally shaping your future through your words. But guess what? That means you can rebuild it too. That's the power of positive affirmations. You're not lying to yourself. You're reminding yourself of what's already there, the strength, the vision, the potential. You're reprogramming your lens. You're turning self-doubt into self-direction. That's personal growth. That's self-improvement in motion. You're not waiting for a perfect version of yourself to arrive. You're blessing the journey as it unfolds. I've seen people chase success their whole lives and still feel empty. Why? Because they spoke more failure over themselves than faith. They never realized their mouth was killing their mission. But if you speak blessings, even in the middle of the storm, you activate resilience. You stop surviving and you start creating. Let's pause for a second and take a deep breath. Think about the words you said to yourself today. Were they building you up or breaking you down? And more importantly, were they yours? Or did they belong to someone who gave up on themselves and projected that fear onto you? This is your turning point. This is your turning point right now, because the minute you become aware of your self-talk is the minute you start regaining control. This is where optimism is born, not in fake smiles, but in a decision to speak differently about your life. It's when you say, I'm not a failure, I'm in formation. I'm not too late, I'm right on time for what's mine. That's future potential talking. That's you stepping into your power. And let me be clear, this isn't about ignoring pain or pretending everything's perfect. It's about honoring the truth while still speaking hope. It's about acknowledging the mess but blessing your progress. That's the real flex, the real strength. Anybody can complain. Anybody can criticize. But it takes a warrior to bless their own battle while they're still in it. And if you're still with me, then you're that warrior. And the fact that you're still here, still listening, still open, it tells me something important. You're ready for change, ready for purpose, ready to release the negative patterns and start walking in faith. Because here's the secret most people miss: when you start speaking blessings on yourself, other people feel it too. They treat you differently. They sense the confidence, the peace, the purpose, and you start attracting people, places, and opportunities that match that energy. You don't have to beg the world to see you. You just have to speak like someone who's already seen. And once you understand that, the game changes forever. Let me ask you a real question. Would you ever build a house with no blueprint? Just stack bricks wherever you feel like it. No direction, no vision, no structure? Of course not. That'd be chaos. But you know what's crazy? That's exactly how most people treat their life. No, but just waking up every day, letting the world decide how they feel, what they believe, and what they think they deserve. But life responds to intention. And your words are your blueprint. Your words are what start shaping the rooms of your future. The ceilings you set, the doors you open, the strength of your foundation. Every time you speak, you're either building a fortress or you're poking holes in the walls. I had to learn that the hard way. I remember times when I would look in the mirror and all I saw was what I wasn't. Not enough this, not enough that, And even when I started getting the success, the recognition, the roles, that inner voice didn't change right away. It kept whispering the same old fears. You know why? Because I never told it something different. I never challenged it. I just accepted it like it was truth. But it wasn't. See, just like you train your body, you got to train your language. Not for fake confidence, but for real transformation. That's why I started speaking blessings over my day before the day could speak out over me. I stopped waiting for somebody to say, "You're doing great," and I started saying it to myself. I stopped letting my mistakes be final and started calling them what they really were, lessons in motion. That shift right there. That's the difference between a stagnant life and a growing one. Because when you speak blessings, you create momentum. Even when it's small, even when it's quiet, that momentum, it's text. It builds belief, and belief becomes behavior. That's how people really change their lives. Now listen, some folks will roll their eyes at this. Oh, here you go with the positive mindset stuff. But let me tell you something. People who mock positivity are usually the ones most desperate for it. They've been stuck in survival mode so long, and hope feels like a threat. Like if they expect something good, it doesn't happen, it'll hurt worse. So they shut it down before it even begins. But that's not you, because you're here. And being here means something. It means you're brave enough to believe there's more for your life. That your best days weren't in behind you, they're still forming, waiting on you to speak them into existence. And I know it sounds simple, maybe too simple, but that's the brilliance of it. The most powerful things in life usually are. Let me give you something real practical here. Starting today, I want you to develop a habit not just of thinking better, but of speaking blessings on purpose. Wake up and declare the kind of day you want. Don't wait for the weather or the traffic or somebody's attitude to decide how you feel. Speak it first. I am focused today. I am walking in peace. I'm protected, provided for, and progressing. Say it out loud. That's not wishful thinking. That's goal setting with intention. That's giving your mind a target. You know what the brain loves: clarity, direction, identity. When you speak blessings like that, your mind starts aligning with your words. You begin walking in alignment. You stop chasing other people's definitions of success. You start honoring your own values, your own goals, your own growth. And you stop shrinking, because speaking blessings kills that need to apologize for your ambition. It silences the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" And it replaces it with the truth: "I am a work in progress, but I am worthy right now." That's biblical wisdom. That's spiritual clarity. That's self-improvement from the inside out. Not because somebody handed you a motivational quote, but because you handed one to yourself. That's what mature inspiration looks like. It's not loud. It's not desperate. It's a steady fire burning inside you, guiding your steps, no matter the weather. So let this settle in your heart. Every time you speak a blessing over your life, you're building something. You may not see it today. You may not feel it yet. But I promise you, foundations don't shout, they hold. And if you stay consistent, if you stay intentional, the structure of your future will rise up strong. Not because it was easy, but because you built it with your words. You ever wonder how cycles get created? Not just the good ones, I'm talking about the ones that keep you stuck. The self-doubt, the procrastination, the emotional roller coasters. They don't come from nowhere. They come from repeated words, repeated thoughts, repeated beliefs. Somewhere along the line, someone said something about you when you started saying it too. They labeled you lazy, difficult, too much, not enough, and instead of rejecting that curse, you adopted it like it was truth. That's how cycles begin. But the moment you realize that, you also realize that you can break this cycle. Not through some magic moment, not through luck, but by taking ownership of your language. That's how you build a different future. That's how you change your life. Because speaking blessings isn't just about motivation, it's about reprogramming the system. It's about no longer agreeing with the limitations that were never yours to carry. That's personal growth in its rawest form. That's you refusing to live life on autopilot. You want to talk about resilience. That's what it looks like. Choosing a different word, even when you feel defeated. Choosing to say, I'm healing instead of I'm broken. I'm learning instead of I'm lost. I'm preparing instead of I'm failing. That shift is where power lies. You might be thinking, but Will, I've been through so much, man. This pain runs deep. I get that. I've had days where I didn't want to be around people. Nights where I questioned the point of it all. We've all faced things that cracked us wide open. But here's what I learned in the fire: you are not what happened to you. You are what you're with what happened to you. And what you do starts with what you say. If every day you wake up and say, nothing ever changes, then guess what, it won't. But if you wake up and speak hope even quietly, even shakily, you start unlocking doors that were welded shut by fear. That's the kind of strength that doesn't just push you forward, it pulls your future toward you. Now, let's take it even deeper. You ever notice how kids learn language? They don't memorize grammar. They absorb it from repetition, from environment, from watching what's said around them. That's how the subconscious mind works too. It absorbs. It listens when you think no one's listening. And if all it hears is negativity, doubt, and fear, that's what it learns to repeat. But when it starts hearing blessings, faith, possibility, that's when it starts rewriting the story. And once that story starts changing, your reality follows. There's a verse I love: death and life are in the power of the tongue. That's biblical wisdom. That's not poetry, that's truth. Because words create worlds. And some of y'all have been living in a world that was built by curses. You didn't even mean to speak. But today, that ends. Today, you start speaking new life into your world. A new world where peace is your default, where love is your weapon, where purpose is louder than fear. That's a positive mindset rooted in identity, not hype. Now, don't get it twisted, this won't be easy. You will have days where the old voices try to come back. You'll slip. You'll speak in frustration. You'll go back to autopilot. But that's part of the journey. Growth isn't linear. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about rising faster every time. So when that happens, don't beat yourself up. Just reset. Breathe and speak again. A blessing, a truth, a word of hope, even one sentence can shift the atmosphere. Think about the most successful, grounded, purpose-driven people you know. What do they have in common? It's not money. It's not followers. It's not fame. It's certainty. And that certainty, it came from inner alignment, from mastering their language, from waking up and saying, I know who I am. I know where I'm headed. And I speak life into that direction. This ain't about pretending to be something you're not. This is about becoming who you were always meant to be by changing what you say about yourself. So, stop waiting for someone else to validate your vision. Stop waiting for permission to evolve. The people around you may not understand your transformation, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to go with you into your next season. But the version of you who speaks a blessing, walks with purpose, holds on to hope, that person is ready now. That person is already waking up inside you. This is the moment where change starts. Not when the job comes, not when the relationship arrives, but now when you decide to bless your life like it already has value, already has meaning, already has legacy. Because it does. And if no one's ever told you, let me be the first, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. And if you can speak that blessing over your day, even once you've already won more than most, you know what's wild? Most people go through their entire lives not realize, and just how much power they carry in their mouth. Not in their money, not in their job title, not in how many people know their name. No, the real power is in the way they speak about themselves. And not just in public, but in private too. Because the words you whisper to yourself when no one's listening, those are the ones that shape your identity. And the danger is, you get used to it. You don't even notice it anymore. I can't. That's just who I am. I'm not cut out for that. This always happens to me. You think it's just venting, but your mind, it's recording. It's making it real. And the more you repeat it, the more it becomes your reality. That's the trap. And that's why you feel stuck, not because of the situation, but because of the narrative you've let become your truth. But here's the game changer. Once you realize you created that narrative, you also realize you can rewrite it. That's the most liberating thing you will ever understand. Because if you built it with words, then you can rebuild it with better ones. That's self-improvement in motion. That's the kind of change that doesn't fade in a week. That's the kind that sticks. Now I know someone out there is thinking, but Will, it's not that easy. I've got real problems. I've got real responsibilities. Life ain't all affirmations and smiles. And I hear you. Life is real. Life will throw punches. It will test you. But that's exactly why you got to armor up every morning with what you say. Because if the world is going to try to tear you down, you better be building yourself up from the inside. That's not denial, that's defense. That's spiritual resilience. That's biblical wisdom in action. Because even scripture says, let the weak say, I am strong. That's not lying to yourself. That's speaking to your potential, not just your present. That's calling things into existence before they show up. That's faith in action. Let's bring it down to earth. Think about people who faced unbelievable obstacles and still built a life of impact. They weren't superhuman. They didn't have perfect backgrounds or endless resources. What they had was conviction. They had a voice inside that said, I will not let my past define my future. And they repeated that voice until it drowned out the noise. That's what you need. Not more like just more conviction in your voice. More optimism about your outcome. More belief in your direction. But here's the secret. You don't get that conviction from the outside. You build it in silence. In the morning, before the emails hit. At night, before the doubt creeps in. You build it by speaking blessings out loud when you don't feel blessed. Just say it anyway. I am not stuck. I am being shaped. I am stronger than yesterday. Say it even if your voice shakes. Because it's not about how loud you speak. It's about how consistently you speak life into your journey. Some of y'all are out here watering everybody else's garden and wondering why yours is dry. You're speaking life into everybody but yourself. You're encouraging friends, supporting your family, uplifting co-workers, but what about you? Who encourages you? Who reminds you of your strength that Jed belongs to you? Not because no one cares, but because your voice is the one you hear the most. Your voice holds the most weight. So speak with purpose. Speak with care. Speak with inspiration. You want to talk about future potential? It's already in you. You don't have to become somebody else to succeed. You just have to become fully yourself. And the only way you do that is by shedding the labels, the lies, the limiting beliefs that were never true in the first place. That happens one word at a time, one decision, one affirmation, one bold statement in the mirror saying, I deserve more and I'm ready to act like it. Because it's not about hoping life gets easier. It's about becoming stronger, more clear, more centered, That's why goal setting matters. That's why positive affirmations matter. Not because they magically solve things, but because they position you mentally, emotionally, spiritually to be ready when opportunity shows up. It's like tuning a radio. If you're not on the right frequency, you'll miss the signal. But when your mindset is aligned, when your spirit is steady, when your words match your vision, you'll start picking up things other people overlook. Doors will open. Not by accident, but because you were finally aligned to walk through them. I'm telling you, you're not as far as you think. Sometimes the only thing keeping you from your next level is the sentence you keep repeating in your head. Change the sentence, change the level, change the sentence, change your life. And look, I know this is deep. I know it's a lot, but that's why I said in the beginning, if you stay with me, I'll give you more than hype. I'll give you tools, real tools, because this right here, this isn't a moment, this is a movement inside you, a shift, a reclaiming of your own narrative. You don't have to wait for a perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin by blessing what you already are and what you're becoming. And that, my friend, is the beginning of the real change. Let's get real now, because once you start changing your language, once you start speaking blessings upon yourself, you're going to notice something strange. The people around you may not clap. They may not cheer. In fact, some of them may look at you sideways. They'll say you've changed, like that's a bad thing. They'll tell you to be more realistic. They'll ask, what happened to the old you? And right there, that's the test. See, most people fear rejection more than they fear regret. They'll stay small just to fit into a space they've outgrown. They'll keep quiet just to avoid making others uncomfortable. But you're not here to stay silent. You're here to speak. You're here to evolve. You're here to bless your path, even if nobody else understands it. This is personal growth in its purest form. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely sometimes, but it's necessary because becoming the person you were born to be means letting go of the version of you that was built to survive. That old self, the one who played it safe, who hid their light, who only spoke when spoken to, that version kept you alive. But it won't take you to your destiny. And here's the thing, you can't fake this. You can't skip the inner work and expect outer success. You can't say one thing and live another and expect peace. You have to align. Your words, your actions, your energy, they all have to agree with the future you want to create. You want success, you want breakthrough? Then start talking like someone who's ready for it. Stop waiting for a sign. Be the sign. Be the walking evidence that faith works. That self-improvement is possible. That overcoming obstacles isn't just a glitch, it's a reality for those who are willing to look in the mirror and tell the truth, then speak something better. Because when you speak better, you believe better. When you believe better, you choose better. And when you choose better, your life can't help but rise to match it. Now, I want to tell you something personal. There were years where I was chasing success, but silently doubting myself. On the outside, I was doing all the things, working hard, staying visible, grinding it out. But on the inside, I hadn't yet blessed myself. I was still carrying echoes of old voices, old fears, old scripts. And no matter how high I climbed, I felt like I was dragging chains behind me. It wasn't until I started changing the way I spoke to myself that things shifted. I had to stop waiting for the world to clap and start clapping for myself. I had to wake up and say, Will, you're enough not because of your achievements, but because of who you are at your core. And when I started to believe that, everything around me started aligning. The opportunities got clearer. The path got lighter. The right people showed up not because I begged, but because I became someone worth meeting. That's the power of goal setting tied to identity. That's the power of hope mixed with action. That's what happens when you finally realize the blessing is not out there. It's been in you all along. And some of y'all right now are carrying so much potential. You've got ideas that could change lives. You've got a voice that could heal, a gift that could open doors, but you're waiting. You're waiting to feel ready. You're waiting for the stars to align. You're waiting for someone else to confirm what your heart already knows. Let me say it plain, your time is not coming. Your time is an OW. And it starts with the words you choose today. Choose to speak with intention. Choose to declare your future potential even when your present feels uncertain. Choose to bless your own name. Look in the mirror and say, I am walking in purpose. I am worthy of the life I desire. I'm being prepared for greatness. Because that is not arrogance, that is alignment with truth. And I get it, you might be surrounded by people who don't talk like that. You might be in an environment where negativity is the norm, where sarcasm is currency and dreams are mocked. But hear me, you don't need permission to change the atmosphere. You can be the first in your circle to shift the culture. You can be the first in your family to break the pattern. You can be the first to say, we're not cursing ourselves anymore. We're speaking life from here on out. That's what a positive mindset does. It doesn't ignore the facts, it just refuses to be controlled by them. It uses truth as a compass, not fear. And every time you choose blessing over bitterness, affirmation over anxiety, purpose over pressure, you're building something eternal. And let's not forget, this isn't just about you. When you speak blessings over yourself, you're creating ripple effects. You're teaching your children how to treat themselves. You're showing your friends what real confidence looks like. You're giving your community a new standard. You're reminding people what it looks like to live with vision, with intention, with inspiration. So speak thou if you have to. Keep quiet if you must, but speak with clarity. Say it again even if your voice trembles. Say it until the chains break. Say it until the blessings chase you down. Say it until your life reflects the truth of who you really are. Because when you speak blessings upon yourself, you're not just changing your mindset, you're changing your atmosphere. You're changing your legacy. And I promise you, the version of you who lives in freedom, they're waiting, they're watching, and they're worth fighting for. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you caught yourself saying something about your life and thought, wait, why did I say that? Maybe it was subtle. Maybe it sounded like I always mess things up. Or good things never last for me. Or that quiet little whisper, I don't think I'm good enough. That right there, that's not just self-talk. That's self-programming. Those words you repeat, they're like seeds. And whether you're conscious of it or not, they grow roots in your spirit. They start shaping your decisions, your confidence, your attitude, your attitudes. That's why I keep telling y'all you better be careful what you speak. Because the word you speak becomes the world you live in. See, there's this deep connection between our mouth and our miracle, between our language and our legacy. Biblical wisdom says life and death are in the power of the tongue. That's not poetry. That's not just metaphor. It's a formula. That's the Creator telling us, hey, I gave you a voice not just to express, but to create. And you know what? We've been misusing it. We speak curses over our days without even realizing it. We sabotage ourselves before we even try. We say things like, this is just how I am, and never stop to wonder, but is this how I was meant to be? You were not designed for mediocrity. You were not built for defeat. You were created with resilience, with intention, with power. But if you never say it, you'll never see it. If you don't claim it, you'll keep chasing it. If you don't bless yourself, you'll beg for crumbs of validation from the world. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather build a feast with my words and starve with my silence. Let me break this down. Everything starts with identity. Who you believe you are becomes the ceiling of your possibility. And identity is built from repetition. Affirm what you continually say, think, and affirm. That's why positive affirmations matter, not because they're magic, but because they're seeds of identity. You say, I'm strong, not to convince the world, but to remind your soul what's already true. Let me be real with you. I've had moments in my life where I was surrounded by applause and still felt empty because I hadn't spoken truth over myself. I hadn't toned my identity yet. I was letting results speak louder than purpose. But your circumstances should never define your self-worth. Your bank account should not measure your potential. And your past mistakes, they don't get the final word unless you hand them the microphone. Start flipping the script. Say this with me. I bless my mind with clarity. I bless my heart with peace. I bless my future with success. I bless my soul with purpose. I bless my journey even when I don't understand it. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's not that easy. And you're right. This takes practice. It takes guts. It takes a positive mindset in a negative world. But every blessing starts with a choice, the choice to speak differently, think differently, walk differently. You are not powerless. You are not behind. You are not cursed. You are not forgotten. That voice inside you that keeps whispering there's more, that's hope trying to get your attention. And the only thing standing between you and the life you were born to live is the story you keep telling yourself. So tell a better one. Tell the truth. And I'm not talking about the truth of your past. I'm talking about the truth of your purpose. The truth that says you were created to rise, that your future potential isn't tied to your failures, that you can fall 7 times and still rise 8, that every scar is proof you survived, that every day you speak blessings, you're rewriting your future in real time. Think about the people who've overcome impossible odds, people who grew up with nothing, who were told no again and again, who were underestimated, overlooked, even laughed at. But they made a decision, not just to dream, but to declare, not just to grind, but to grow. They chose to bless themselves when no one else would. They didn't wait for the world to believe in them. They believed in themselves first. And some of y'all right now, you're the ones everyone's gonna look back on and say, I don't know how they did it. But you'll know. You'll remember the day you stopped speaking defeat and started speaking destiny. You'll remember the day you made peace with your past and married your purpose. You'll remember the day you decided to stop surviving and start living. You know what's wild? You don't need anyone's approval to do this. You don't need to be famous. You don't need a perfect resume. You don't need to be loud or charismatic. You just need a willing heart, a little courage, and the boldness to speak blessings when the world expects complaints. That's how you change your life. Not in one big leap, but one word at a time. One moment of honesty, one prayer in the dark, one declaration when everything looks impossible. One whisper that says, I believe in me because God didn't make a mistake when He made me. So if you've been waiting for permission, for clarity, for a breakthrough, this is it. Your words are waiting. Your life is listening. And your blessing begins the moment you open your mouth and say, I'm ready. Let me tell you something that I know deep in my bones. Life ain't about waiting for something magical to fall from the sky. It's about realizing you already got the power inside you, right here, right now. The question is, are you going to use it? I've walked through seasons where I felt broken, where I felt forgotten. There were moments in my life when the spotlight was shining and the cameras were flashing, but inside, I was dim. I was stuck in my own mind, listening to voices that weren't my no voices, bitter voices, false narratives. And you know what freed me? It wasn't success. It wasn't applause. It wasn't money. It was truth. The truth I decided to speak over myself when no one else was around. That's what this whole journey has been about. You learning to speak blessings, because when you speak with purpose, you start to live with power. This isn't about fantasy. This is about transformation. This is how you change your life. You see, people chase results, but God looks at roots. And the strongest roots grow in silence beneath the surface, in the dark, watered not with noise, but with faith. That faith is your voice saying, even if I can't see it yet, I will still speak it. I will still believe it. I will still show up. That's what makes you different. That's what separates the person who watches life from the person who creates life. You don't need anyone to tell you what's possible. You need to decide what's possible. And then you need to declare it. Speak optimism into your day. Speak inspiration into your struggle. Speak resilience into your weakness. Speak hope into your waiting season. Speak self-improvement into your routine. Speak biblical wisdom into your decisions. Speak future potential into your goals. That's how you move from where you are to where you were destined to be. Let me give it to you straight. Your words are your weapons. You don't fight your battles by swinging fists. You fight them by guarding your tongue. You protect your destiny by protecting your declarations. I've met people who had everything stacked against them: poverty, trauma, rejection, but the one thing they didn't lose, their ability to believe. And you could hear it in how they talk. Even when life hit them hard, they'd say, I'm not done. Even when doors closed, they'd say, I know another one's opening. That's the voice of victory. That's not arrogance. That's faith in motion. Now look, this ain't just about saying pretty words. Blessings are not about being fake. You still feel the pain. You still go through stuff. You still doubt sometimes. But you don't let that be the final sentence. You don't let that be your identity. You let it be a chapter, not the title. So when things get tough and you remind yourself, I am the head and not the tail. I'm more than a conqueror. I was made with purpose. I am here on assignment. I walk with power. I speak with truth. I love myself through the process. These aren't just affirmations, they are alignments. Every time you speak them, you align your spirit with your destiny. But you are building the world you will walk into. And here's the powerful part: when you speak these blessings, you don't just change your life. You change the atmosphere around you. People feel it. Environment shift. Your energy becomes contagious. To become a light, you want to know how to make your enemies powerless. You bless yourself louder than they can curse you. You want to know how to kill doubt. You drown it in truth. You want to know how to stop overthinking. Start declaring instead of doubting. I'm not just speaking this to hype you up. I'm speaking this because I've lived it, because I know what it means to mess up and start over. I know what it means to feel like your past is louder than your future. But I also know what it means to speak life into dead places and watch them bloom. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not powerless. You're right on time for a comeback. And it starts with your voice. From this day forward, I want you to wake up and say, today is blessed. Before your feet hit the floor, say, I am a child of purpose. When challenges come, say, I was built for this. When fear shows up, say, I'm walking in faith. And when the world tries to make you feel small, you stand tall and say, I know who I am and I'm not apologizing for it. This isn't motivation, this is a movement of the mind. This is how you speak your way out of survival and into abundance. This is how you create breakthroughs. This is how you stop letting life happen to you and start letting life happen through you. Let me say this one last time. Speak blessings upon yourself. CHANGEYOURLIFE. You don't need a million followers. You don't need approval. You just need to believe that your voice matters, because it does. And when you start speaking powerfully, intentionally, consistently, your reality starts catching up to your words. You are enough. You are capable. You are powerful. You are ready. And here at Wisdom Recorder, we're not just about talk, we're about truth. So if this message sparks something in you, do not stay silent. Speak it. Become it. Like, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Recorder, your knowledge source. Let's keep building a life worth speaking over.